How has Tyler Smith performed in his first week of padded practices for the Dallas Cowboys? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your
Locked
daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. I am Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. He is Landon McCool. You can check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. He's also at Cowboys Camp out in Oxnard. Landon, how you doing today, sir?
Doing great. Today was actually my first day on the field in practice, so that was quite an adventure and really, really fun to kind of get down there, mix it up, and get even closer. So I got lots to talk about, but it was, on a personal note, it was just a really fun, cool experience.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of notes that we want to get to from Thursday's practice, but the biggest one is Tyler Smith. I saw a play today where he and Tyron Smith gave John Ridgeway a little ride, like across the field on a block. It seems like so far so good for Tyler Smith. What did you see from the field?
Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of that. I saw also him and Biotish give Gallimore a little ride as well. I think, to me, again, by my eyes, and it's not as easy to kind of get over to see the offensive line drills and stuff. They just by the way that training camp is laid out now, they've kind of tucked them away in a corner that's not easily accessible for media or for fans. So
maybe it was on purpose.
Maybe, yeah, because I used to just camp over there in the previous training camps and talk to the offensive line coach. That's just not a reality anymore. But I think that one thing that I've been able to notice is, even though they've continued to kind of use Connor McGovern as part-time starter, the gap between Connor McGovern's physical ability and what Tyler Smith can do is large.
The ceiling is just so much higher for Tyler. We knew this as a prospect. Like if Tyler Smith is a prospect, like he can be an all-world guard if he wants to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think the floor is surprisingly high too. I mean, I was just shocked by a lot of the technique stuff that is not really kind of reared its head. I mean, you still see it. There was a time when I saw somebody go one side and then the other side, and you saw his hand kind of slip up a little bit more higher.
It'll happen. I've got no doubt that'll happen.
Of course, yeah. But I just think that I've seen enough of him. I mean, first of all, just like flat out in the run game, he's going to be a dominant force. I just feel that way. I mean, he's just so big and strong, and he can move guys off the ball. Double teams are just going to be much more effective with him involved. And then, the thing that we've started to see a little bit more in the pass game, I've started to see him do some work against some of those double mug looks that we talked about, right? We talked about in regards to Anthony Barr, they have the linebackers inside the A gap, and they've got spinners. I saw at one point where Terrell Basham was playing kind of that spinner role, where he was kind of just like pre-snap picking his spots, right? And then basically, that's where you would worry about Tyler Smith, right? Like going against a quicker player inside, knifing inside. And he was able to get there and get where he needs to and seal off the guy. So, there's still a long ways to go. And I think that there's something to the idea that he isn't taking all the first team reps there. I think that may be about kind of keep learning the playbook a little bit more and just being able to keep up with adjustments and that sort of thing. But outside of that, physically, technique wise, so far, it's been really, really great, and I'm looking forward to seeing him, get some serious playing time early.
The Cowboys are probably trying not to overwhelm him too much. This is the first week of padded practices. I think this is only their third padded practice, right?
Let's see. They started Monday, and because Wednesday was not a padded practice, so this is only the third practice.
They just don't want to overwhelm him. But I mean, for even people like you and I who are not big Tyler Smith fans going into the draft, I think all the news since he has been drafted has been overwhelmingly positive. Now, is that the Cowboys trying to pump up the first round pick? Maybe a little bit, but
it's not because I mean some of it's independent. Like some of it's like going to Duke, and that's what we all wanted him to do. And some of it's like losing, slimming down and coming into camp at great shape. Like the Cowboys can't spin that. That's just what we see.
We should also mention Duke Manyweather is an offensive line coach, more of like a teacher who all these NFL offensive linemen go to work out with in the offseason and regarded as one of the best that there is out there.
Yeah, and I mean, just to kind of give Cowboys fans a reminder, Terrence Steele was very much, a Duke Manyweather prospect and a guy that he helped out a lot. So he has a lot of experience in kind of developing these guys.
So yeah, even someone like Beef who did not love the pick in the first round, get a little excited. Like I'm excited to see him in a game. Like I don't know if it's going to be the same for like when Lyle Collins, like in 2015, when we finally got to see him in the preseason. Remember against Seattle, he had like 2 killer blocks in that game. I think we're going to get some of those moments where he's just out in space and buries dudes.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to temper expectations with a lot of these first round picks coming into these training camps. With this situation, we just, we obviously, I mean, I didn't hate the pick, right? Like I thought that he was a second round player and they picked him in the first round. So I didn't feel like it was a huge reach, but you just didn't know, right? It felt like he had a long way to go. It felt like, there was concerns about whether he was going to be able to get technique where he needed it to be to start the season. I mean, I'm at the point now where I'm ready to see him in like a preseason game or
I'm excited.
Because I think that I've seen enough that I feel excited about watching him, not, peering through my fingers like that.
There's going to be some rough moments, right? He's going to have some penalties. Yeah. There's going to be some missed blocks, but
there was that with Connor Williams too.
Well, that's true. I mean, you're just hoping that the positives outweigh the negatives, and so far, so good for the Cowboys' first round pick. All right, before we talk about the rest of your notes from Cowboys practice on Thursday, I want to tell you guys about Dave. Dave is there when you absolutely need them, when you're in a tough spot or you're struggling to make ends meet. Dave can help you get the support that you need. Dave is the banking app. They can get you up to $500 instantly with extra cash. That is more money to fill your tank, buy a wedding gift, or catch up on bills. You can finally tackle those expenses that have been stressing you out without any hangups. There is no interest and no credit check needed. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app to get the financial relief that they need with extra cash. So if you're in a pinch and you need some extra help, download Dave and think of it as a helping hand from future you. Download the Dave app from the App Store right now. That is DAVE. Sign up for an extra cash account and get up to $500 instantly. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Instant transfer fees apply. Banking provided by Evolve. Member FDIC. All right, let's talk about the wide receivers, Landon, because I think they had a pretty decent day again on Thursday. I want to start with Noah Brown. One of the drum beats that we've had from practice so far is that he continues to impress. And I saw him catch multiple passes over the middle. My question for you is, where have the Cowboys been lining him up the most so far?
Yeah, surprisingly, it's been a lot of inside stuff. I mean, I guess it's not terribly surprising, but I think you kind of picture his body style as more of an X, right?
Well, and this is why I asked, because I kind of think at this stage in his career, a slot receiver makes more sense for him. Like, because he is so good in the middle of the field. I think you want him in the slot for his blocking ability, right? If you want him to come down and block a linebacker, like when you're in 3 receiver sets, I think that's fantastic for him. I kind of think like a power slot makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I think, that's kind of the idea a lot with CeeDee Lamb. I think that a bigger slot, and that's the trend league wide, right? Is less of these the way the Cole Beasleys of the world are frankly going the way of the dodo
because it limits your offense too much. Yep. You could only run certain routes with those type of receivers.
Well, yeah, and I think frankly the most dangerous routes that you can run, the kind of deep over routes from the slot, like you don't want Cole Beasley or Wes Welker or those types of players trying to be 15 or 20 yards down the field and presenting a big target coming across the field if you're running, play action and you're booting back the other way. So it just presents a bigger target, and if those guys are good enough route runners to beat coverage, inside, then they just present a bigger target for the quarterbacks to hit in the middle of the field.
I think he's a little bit different than CeeDee Lamb in the slot, but you're right. Like, these are both guys over 6 foot, over 200 pounds. But for me, Noah Brown is like, he's kind of like a tight end, right? He's so strong that if you want to throw him seam routes or have him matched up against the linebacker, like, he's going to win all of those. And I love the ability to have him, hey, he's in the slot, but now he can motion down, inside the tackle box and be an extra blocker because he's fantastic at that.
I will say, though, and I was talking to actually Jeff Kavanaugh about this, is that he looks noticeably smaller. Like, he has slimmed down significantly. He redid his body in a way that he looks more like a wide receiver. So I agree with you that in the role that he has done that in the past, but I wonder how much, if he's lost any of that effectiveness as a blocker, because it does appear that he's lost, and I mean in a good way.
Yeah.
Like,
it's possible, but for him, it's the mentality, right? Like,
that's true. He won't back down. That's for certain.
All right. Another receiver that we should mention, Onterio Drummond. He came off the PUP list today, practiced with the Cowboys. Sounds like he had a good day.
He just, I mean, I think he was just working in there. I mean, he's with the kind of the bottom of the roster folks, but I mean, just the he looked very smooth. He looked the part. He looked like it wasn't so much of a
it wasn't too big
struggle to get in and out of his breaks or anything like that. He didn't look like he didn't have any lingering effects of not having practiced for a while. He looked like he belonged, and frankly, considering the way that almost the rest of the whole wide receiver core looked today, that's pretty good that he can come in and I almost called him KD Drummond. Shout out to KD Drummond.
Shout out to
it's like his cousin, right? It's a testament that he can come in and kind of run and pick it up and look like he belongs for the rest of the group.
We should also mention Jalen Tolbert, who I saw had a long touchdown reception in one-on-one drills, a couple sweet catches in team drills. So far, it seems like he's had a pretty good week, Landon.
He dominated the early part of practice. Like, he was just all over the place, making catches. Obviously the long bomb was really impressive. And then, he had a couple other catches, toe tapping near the sideline and getting up. And he's just, he looks like Gallup. I mean, it's kind of funny. I mean, even when he stands next to Gallup, he's like a little bit kind of taller version of Gallup, it seems like.
You know what? That's funny. When Gallup comes back, their entire receiving corps is going to be like between 6'1" and 6'2". Everybody's between 205 and 210 pounds.
They usually all stand together. Like, even though Gallup's, in a jersey and not wearing pads or whatever, they all stand together, and it's just funny to see them kind of like lined up, and they just, there's 1'3", 1'8", and 8'8", and they all kind of are the same height, and
except for Vasher. Vasher's the only one that looks different, right?
Oh yeah, no, Vash. I'm in of the starting three. Vasher's like a tight end, like really skinny tight end. Yeah, it's pretty funny to see him. And then Turpin, who could be even more different than is 3 inches shorter than I am. For God's sake.
How has Turpin looked, the USFL MVP? How has he looked in practice so far?
He's so fast. I mean, they used him as a running back a little bit today because of some of the injuries to, not injuries, the COVID situation with Rico and what's the name of the Shabank or Shablanc? I can't remember the name of it. He has a really funny last name. The fourth running back, I can't remember what his name is.
Yeah.
Anyways, they both are out with COVID, and so it looked like him and maybe Drummond even got some reps as running backs. And at one point, they threw like a pitch or as an out thing, and you could just see it. Like, he got the corner and he was gone up the sideline really, really fast. I watched him returning punts, and he was doing the Pac-Man.
The Pac-Man, where you can catch it one time.
And then what he was really good at was he caught like 3 or 4 of them. And then when the fifth one come, he'd throw the fourth one back, catch it, and then catch the fifth one again, like almost kind of a half juggle situation. So, I think, he looks the part as a punt returner. They're kind of moving him around for different stuff. I think they're going to, it seems to me that they're going to keep him on the roster no matter what.
They've got a role. They don't have anybody that can be a punt returner outside of CeeDee Lamb, right?
I don't know if they have the full role for him, but I guess the point I was going to make is they have enough of a role that they want to keep him, and I think that they're trying to see what else he can do. How else can we expand on that role, basically.
Yeah, I agree. All right, a couple more things we want to get to, including a very interesting defensive package that the Cowboys deployed on Thursday. But before we do that, I want to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. Find all of your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Landon, you tweeted out an interesting personnel package that the Cowboys were using on defense on Thursday with J-Ron Kearse. Do you want to explain what that was?
Yeah, I mean, it was again one of the kind of cooler things to get just a little bit closer, right? Is that you can hear coaches talking to their players, you can hear kind of packages being called out. And again, this is not privileged information or anything that and I wouldn't do that if it was, but again, these are all public practices. No one's whispering any of this stuff. But they do have a package that they're calling the Hippo package, it seems like. And I think that they had something similar to this before. I mean, obviously, because they kind of had referred to themselves as almost a 3-4 team at some points, but it's like a 3-4 look, right? Where they have three different kind of more, I would say 3 technique types, not
like DeVille Gallimore, right?
I think it was Gallimore that I definitely noticed. I think Tristan Hill was the other side, and I didn't catch who was in the middle. But they had Parsons lined up as the rusher on the near side, which would be the left side of the defense. And then I couldn't catch. I think it was maybe 53. I'm sorry, 93. Basham. Who was on the Basham was on the other side, and then the linebackers were. I mean, it would have been Leighton Vander Esch, but today it was Luke Gifford.
Yep.
And then the other would be the other inside linebacker was Javon Kearse, and then J-Ron Kearse, and then they had the normal safeties behind them, right? So it was like a 3 safety, 2 linebacker look, but one of the linebackers was a pass rusher, and then like a traditional pass rusher at the end of a 3 defensive tackle line. So it's kind of very interesting. They could obviously do a lot of different things out of that package, including, blitz from one side, drop Parsons into coverage, or attack at the line of scrimmage. So it was really cool.
Might even be a package where like the 2 linebackers are Anthony Barr and J-Ron Kearse, where Barr could be a blitzer, right? Kearse could be somebody dropping in coverage or matching up with a tight end. Like, just gives you a lot of length and flexibility, because Anthony Barr is like 6'5", 255. J-Ron Kearse is 6'4", 220. It's a lot of size, length, and athleticism in the middle of your defense.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're trying to shut down the run too, what you could do is put Barr as the Parsons role, put Parsons as the Luke Gifford role, right? Mm-hmm. And then kind of run it that way, and like in first down situations as well. So, a very, very interesting way to kind of get 3 linebackers on the field while still maintaining Parsons and an extra linebacker as well.
Yes. All right. Any other notes from practice you want to mention? We should mention the kicking battle. They did the mojo moments again today, trying to mess with the kickers. They opened up practice, I believe, with a little bit of a kicking battle. You had a really funny tweet about the kickers and their ball skills, or the defensive backs and their ball skills. Why don't you explain that?
Yeah, so they so one thing, I think that it may have been mentioned before, but I've been trying to figure out exactly what it was that they were doing from across the camp, and when they do kicking, while the rest of the kicking team is involved in doing the operations of kicking, the rest of the players all kind of do a ball drill. Basically, it's like they do a tip drill. I think they do another thing where they just hand you the ball, and then they will try to punch it out like it's a running back drill, right? But every single person goes through it. I'm sorry, not every single, but every player in obviously the offensive skill players. And then on top of that, all the back 7 players. So all the linebackers, all the defensive backs, they all went through it. And they have, at one point they have guys running through, they're trying to punch the ball out. At another point, they're working on tip drills, but the tip drills are not defense exclusive. So there's offensive players that are doing tip drills as well. And at some point, I just kept on hearing one of the coaches scream over and over, tips and overthrows, got to get those. Tips and overthrows, got to get those. Tips and overthrows, got to get those. Like it was kind of like a mantra that they would just kept on repeating over and over again. So that was pretty fun. Another note I'll just throw in because it's an interesting insight is that they were doing this whole mojo moment, right? And they do it where they set up a scenario where the offense has to get to X spot and then set up for the field goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So today, what they did is they had, the first team come out and they did a great job of setting up. In fact, that was one where Tolbert had one of his best catches. They had Dak set up the field goal team for the kick, and then they went through this series of like things where they snapped the ball and then the kicker kicked the ball, and I think in the first one he made it. And then after he made it, they said, "Oh no, the kicker was iced," and it's all contrived. It's all scenarios, created by the coaches. And then so they did the ice the kicker or whatever. They made him re-kick it. As that was happening, I was standing like right next to the line judge, whose job is to make sure that watch the actual snap and make sure that no one like jumps off sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
As I was watching it, the ref yells to the line judge, "Hey, throw a flag on this next one." And the line judge was like, okay. And she seemed like she maybe was like kind of a junior or like learning on the job. And so they do the kick or whatever. He misses it, by the way, on the ice kick, and then they throw the flag, and everyone was just like, "What's going on? What was the flag for?" They didn't know if they have it. She said something like offsides, and there's like, "No way, no." And finally, Mike McCarthy had to come over and like yell at everyone on the sideline, including the media. It's like, these are fake penalties. These are not real penalties. We're trying to create a scenario here, and clearly what they were trying to do is like move the kicker forward and back a little bit.
Yeah, just get into his head a little bit, right?
Exactly. So I thought that was a great example of we have to be careful about what we're seeing up here. Because if he hadn't said anything, or if we weren't close enough to hear all of what was going on, I'm sure we would be on here bashing the special teams. Oh, they can't even get a kickoff without jumping off sides, and it's just like.
Can I give you another an example of that?
Please.
I mean, we actually talked about this pre-show. But
yes, absolutely.
Yes. Right? He had this long touchdown catch in one-on-one drills, and people on Twitter went wild. And the people that love Fajoku pre-draft are retweeting it. The people that don't like Trevon Diggs are retweeting it. But you watch the drill. It's a one-on-one drill that Trevon Diggs wins he wins the first 3.5 seconds of that drill because Fajoku's first step at press is backing up, and it takes him like a good half second to even get off the line of scrimmage. Like, yes, Fajoku scored the touchdown, but Diggs won that rep. Like, he won the early part of that rep because you're never going to have that much time if it's one-on-one coverage because it typically means you're blitzing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really like a simulation, like you're trying to simulate a release, and it's really more like you're focusing on two different parts of the route, right? You're focusing on the early part of the release, and then if it gets down the field and they're one-on-one, you're obviously focusing on the ability of the ball skills
to track it and make the catch, but it's different, right? And
and there's no safeties, there's no zone, I mean, it's one of those scenarios that the only way that scenario would play out on a field where there's no safety help for Diggs is in cover zero when all of our linebackers or whoever is blitzing and there's no safety help. And if that was the scenario, that pass would have never gotten off. Like the play took too long to develop.
Diggs is probably not playing press man coverage at the line of scrimmage in cover zero. I mean, I wouldn't think at least, but.
Well, and beyond that too, like and I'm sure everyone's heard about it because I saw that Todd Archer tweeted it out, but Diggs got really upset after that because Al Harris was saying, "Hey, you've got to get up on him and like press him." And I think what Al Harris didn't see was that Fajoku was actually like 3 yards off the line of scrimmage.
And he went backwards on his first step. He went back.
Exactly.
It's just like, how do you?
And again, if it was cover zero and you're going backwards, like
exactly.
Yeah,
but on Twitter, hey, that gets 500 retweets because they see Fajoku catching a long touchdown, right? But that's why everything at camp you should take with a grain of salt. And it's all about, we've been saying this all off season, right? It's all about beats. It's about not having one good rep. It's about having 5 straight good days of practice. That's how you tell somebody's having a good camp.
To me, it's about, and this is what I've gotten after all these years, is it's about zeroing in on technique, on specific stuff, because the whole thing is not a full, analog for a game snap. You're trying to see, hey, has Diggs gotten any better on flipping his hips or on his speed turns? Like those, you're trying to.
That's what they're focusing on.
That's what they're focusing on, right? Like they're not worried about necessarily the touchdown or whatever. Like, half the time, like it
doesn't matter.
They're talking to the DB as they're going up the field. Yeah.
The coaches don't care about it, so neither should we, right? It's that first second and a half of the play that they're concerned about. So
yeah, I just think that like we tend to glean too much, of like value of this instead of just it being noticing trends or changes or improvements or regression. It's like Diggs is toast. We got to get a cornerback in here. Wide receivers lost today. We can't get any wide receiver. We got to get a wide receiver. I mean, that may happen anyways, but that's, I guess, where I'm getting at is it feels like it's not all or nothing. It's very much looking at specific stuff and seeing what you can glean from the specifics and not over investing everything on one rep just because I get it. Like you're getting what these little tiny morsels from camp and everyone's excited. I totally understand that, but we have to calm down. Like we have to like calm our minds and realize what this actually means.
That is it for today's show. Thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen today. Now make your second listen to Locked On NFL podcast. Our national NFL experts and insiders keep fans dialed in with the biggest stories and the latest news from around the league, because an offseason doesn't equal a break in the action. Landon, the Cowboys still have one more practice this week that you're going to be at?
I'm actually going Friday and Saturday. So there's 2 more practices left. Yeah.
So there we go. We'll maybe get some more Cowboys nuggets. I'm sure we'll be talking about it here on Locked On Cowboys. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Check out YouTube, where we sometimes drop, fun bonus episodes when the Cowboys sign a former Pro Bowl linebacker. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I am at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy your weekend. See you guys next time.